Hi there, this is Scott Stuff. Today is October 2nd, 2008, and today I'm going to do a board game review. And the game is going to be Senji by Asmodee Games. Now, the most notable feature of Senji when you open the box is going to be the really large timer. How big is this timer? It's half the size of my head. Wow, if my head's that big, then this timer must be huge. Anyway, this timer runs for 20 hours, and this timer runs for 4 minutes. You'll use it in each turn of the game. Now, Senji, at first blush, looks to be a big battle game. You've got a map, when you've got troops, you're going to be moving around the map, and it looks like it's one of these rawr games like Risk. And you know, in that, you just want to get Australia and sit there and you'll be fine. But anyway, the way this game works is there's actually a number of different ways to get points. You're going for a number of victory points, or whatever they're called, and the person who reaches a certain point wins. So what's interesting about the game is that you can get those points in several different ways. And some people say the game's not balanced. I haven't played it enough to say one way or the other. Now, what's going to go on the game is there's going to be a few phases that you do in each turn of the game. The first thing you have is the diplomacy phase, which is what this timer is used for. You have 4 minutes to run around and trade and discuss with everyone else. Everyone has a little map on a reference sheet. You can use that when you're talking about secret plans. You go here and I'll attack here. But what you're going to be doing during that phase is trading cards. And so every family, let's say blue as a family, would have a set of cards. And the cards do a few things. The cards will represent future support in a battle. The cards will represent future economic trades. Or the cards represent family members that are hostages. So, like, here's old grandpa. And so if we made a trade, I might say, hey, I want to attack you. I'm going to attack over here. And you say, well, if we want to seal the deal, you give me grandpa. So I might give you this card, and that would be a hostage. And later on in the game, if I attacked you, you could kill off grandpa, and I would lose points. And so the hostage trades can be used to help cement an agreement. Like, I won't attack you, you don't attack me. Okay, let's trade a hostage. And that's what they're good for. There's other cards that are military support, so I can give this to someone else, and it indicates later on in the game they can play it and they'll get support from me in a combat. And then there's a trading card, and I'll talk a little bit about how that works later on, but it just guarantees later on in the game you're going to be able to do some trading. So in the first 4 minutes of a turn, you're going to trade these with other players and make deals. You can do those secretly. If there are players not in the game, you put random cards out for those other players, and then you can bid on those with your own cards. So then I might bid grandpa, which is worth 2, to try and get that military assistance from the player that's not in the game. The next thing you're going to do is make plans. Now, in each space of the board, you can have troops. And you may have a little castle, and you can have up to 6 troops in a space. You're going to put a little marker down in each space of the board, and the marker's just going to do one of 3 things. It's either going to indicate that you are finding new troops there, you're adding troops, you're finding resources there, or you're moving. That's it. 3 types of markers. More troops, get resources, or move. And in each country, you're going to put one of these markers. That's all done secretly, so they all go face down. And then you resolve them. Now, the order in which you resolve them is determined by the emperor, and the emperor is the person with the hourglass. So whoever has this determines the order, and that order can be very important. An example. In one game, I saw I was going to get attacked, and I was the emperor. So I put down gather resources in all of my spaces on the board, and then as the emperor, I went first with all of my people, so I was able to get a bunch of resources. And then I got attacked, and I lost those territories, but at least I got a bunch of stuff first. Here's the thing about the emperor. The emperor is always the person who has the most points in the game, and that's a powerful position. And so I see that's a flaw with this game, is you have this situation where the person who gets in the lead is emperor and has the ability to stay in the lead. A lot of games try and balance that out, even if it's not based on reality. I mean, reality is, if you are the emperor, you're going to use that to your advantage to stay emperor. But a lot of games like to be nice, and so what they do is they help out the losers. But in this game, the winner gets that bonus. So anyway, you plan things out in secret simultaneously, and then the emperor picks a country and says, that country goes, that country goes, that country goes, and so you execute your moves. Now, in combat, you indicate you're moving, you move into an enemy's territory. Each side counts up the number of troops they have there. They see if they have a samurai. Now, samurai are little leaders that will go into battle. Each player starts the game with a samurai card, and each samurai has a special ability. The samurai not only will help the dice rolling in the battle, but also may have a special ability that will affect the battle, sometimes quite a bit. The trick is, if you lose the battle, you lose all your troops, including your samurai. So in the game we played, 3 of the 5 samurai were gone within about 2 turns. It was very bloody. So you count up the number of troops you have on each side, and then you're going to roll dice. And now each die that you roll has one symbol for each of the players around the table. Notice there's 6 symbols. So what happens is you roll the dice, and each die that comes up with your side adds to your battle total. So you have the number of troops plus the number of dice. Now, what happens is then you look to see, all right, you might say, Scott, I've got 5, my opponent has 4. Now we look at all the other dice that weren't used, and they're all going to have a symbol of one of the other players at the table. If earlier in the game I had traded for a battle card from another player, I could then play it, and I'd get to count their dice too. The losing side lost all their troops. The winning side lost a number of troops equal to what the losing side lost. So if the losing side lost 2, the winning side lost 2 as well. Now, just to start setting out points, the winner of a combat, if they are the attacker, gets double the number of points for the number of troops that died. So if you had 2 troops die and I had 2 troops die, that's 4 troops. If you were the attacker, you get 8 points. If you were the defender, you only get 4 points. So the game rewards attacking. It's not a game where you want to sit there. You want to do some attacking because the game rewards that. So you resolve all the combats, and then you go into the last phase of the game. And in that phase of the game, you're going to be playing a totally different type of card. Now, I haven't talked about these yet. They're economy cards, and this part of the game reminds me of Mahjong. Actually, if you've ever played Mahjong, what you're doing in this final part of the game is you're trying to make sets. Now, these are totally different cards from the ones I showed you earlier. These cards are economic cards, and when I said that one of your 3 options was to gather resources, gathering resources lets you draw more of these cards. Now, these cards have colors, they have symbols, and they have numbers. And so you're going to get a bunch of these cards, colors, symbols, and numbers, and you can trade them in for points. This chart shows you how that you trade them in. If you have, like, say, 8 cards with all different numbers, you can trade those in for 12 points. If you have 6 cards of the same color, you trade those in for 9 points. So you can go for the different numbers, you can go for the same color, you can go for animal cards or sun cards, or you can try and get ribbon cards, and if you get enough of those, you can turn them in and get a new samurai for your army. So just to put everything in perspective, you're going for 60 points total. So if you get a set of 8 cards, all with different numbers, that's worth 12 points out of 60, which is quite a bit. Now, remember earlier I mentioned one of the 3 types of diplomacy cards you can give to someone else is a trading card. The trading cards will have a number on them. What the trading cards represent, like here's a 3 trading card, is that during this phase, you can give me back this card. I then have to give you 3 of my economic cards, and you pick the one you want and give me back the other 2. So the trading cards force you to trade with someone else, basically force you to give them a selection and they pick what they want out of that. There's no other trading of these economic cards allowed, so the only other way to get economic cards is to get them through your armies or to get trading cards from other players. You also, if you manage to get 1 diplomacy card from each other player, no matter what the numbers are, you can trade them all in and get 10 points. Do that 6 times, you win the game. So, how to get points in the game? 1, fighting. Attacking gets you more points than defending, but either way, you get points through fighting. 2, economics. By collecting lots of these economic cards in different types of sets and turning them in, you get points. 3, diplomacy. The more you trade with other people, the more of these cards you can get, and then you can trade in sets of these cards to get points. So the way the game ends up playing is that you can focus on one or a combination of all 3. What did I think of the game? Well, the nice thing about the game is it did play in 90 minutes. We were done in about an hour and a half. I've heard from some people that with a full complement of 6, it can take a long time. Of this type of game, I liked this the best. I generally don't like battle games. I don't like that kind of game. It just doesn't do it for me. But I liked this one because you had something else you could do. You could just not worry. I think in the whole game, I attacked 1 time. And I was attacked 1 time. The rest of the time, I was doing this stuff. I was trying to trade with other people and doing some of this stuff as well, doing some of the economic stuff. But I really wasn't worrying about the military. Well, other players were being more militaristic. So anyway, will I play it again? I wouldn't ask for it off the shelf, but I'd play it if someone else wants to play something along these lines, a battle game. I'd say, well, let's play Senji. And I also know it'll be done in less than 2 hours. And then we can move on to something else. So now I'll let you move on to something else and talk to you in another Scott stuff. Bye-bye.